Those boring weekly one-to-ones with your manager, they matter a lot more for your career than you think. Because what you choose to focus on shows how ready you are for the next level. If you're like many Chinese professionals that I coach, you walk in with a checklist. I finished X, I'm working on Y right now, and I'll start Z next week. Showing your progress line by line feels like you're showing your value, right? But in fact, all you're showing is that you're obsessively focused on tasks, not outcomes. When I led a team of 20, I constantly had to remind my junior direct reports stop using one-to-ones for status updates. Our time together is valuable, and status updates are the equivalent of flushing it down the toilet. They are the feeling of this could have been an email, but personified. When you focus on tasks, the real goal of a one-to-one gets shrouded and ignored. That goal is alignment. And without alignment, trust is going to erode quietly. Your manager starts wondering if you actually understand what matters. You start feeling unappreciated because your hard work isn't being recognized. Both of you leave the meeting low-key frustrated that something's missing, even if you can't name it. Well, what you're missing is actually alignment. And it's alignment in 4 key areas: expectations, priorities, resources, and development. I'm going to cover each of these 4 in this episode. So first, we're going to talk about expectations alignment. Most people assume that they're aligned with their manager because they're doing what they were asked. But doing what you were asked and meeting expectations is not always the same thing. Get in the habit of asking yourself, am I solving the right problem here? How do we even define success? When you do this, you're going to start to realize that you can't always be aligned on expectations with your boss. And when you aren't, you're going to face one of the hardest challenges in managing up, which is surfacing disagreements and negotiating expectations. I remember years ago, I had a boss who asked his managers to say whatever they needed to in order to hire the right candidates because our team was growing like crazy. We could not get enough butts in seats. So I thought it was a very short-sighted approach. I believed that we should get candidates who actually wanted to be here long-term. We'd seen enough churn in our team. But honestly, I was also intimidated by my manager. So I just quietly simmered in my disagreement. I nodded along in meetings without speaking up. Later, I extended an offer to a dream candidate, and I refused to sell the role, and I gave it to them straight, the good and the bad together, because I wanted them to make an informed decision. But when my manager learned about that, he exploded. And I don't blame him. He wasn't angry because I disagreed necessarily. He was angry because I'd acted like we were aligned when we weren't. I had surprised him. And that was the day that I stopped being a top performer in his eyes. The day when I broke our trust. And when I look back, I realize if I had just voiced my concern in our one-to-ones and talked through it with him, maybe we could have found a middle ground. But instead, I quietly damaged the one thing that matters most in any working relationship. That brings us to the second point of alignment, which is priorities. Now, I see this all the time. Someone comes into a one-to-one with a list of like 10 things that they're juggling, and they're hoping that their boss is going to praise them because they're working so hard. But then their manager's thinking the whole time, half of these things shouldn't even be on your list. At the end of the day, when you hear about the phrase 80-20, there is truth to that. When you focus on the 20% of work that drives 80% of results, you get to zoom out and actually become more outcome oriented. So in your one-to-ones, ask yourself, what is top of mind for me right now and why? And what is top of mind for my manager and why? What has changed about our team goals over the past month? What feedback does my manager have about where I'm spending my time right now? To tell you the truth, as a manager, I would choose the lazy employee who prioritizes strategically over the hardworking one who executes blindly every single time. I mean, don't get me wrong, all managers love to hear the words, yes, sir, I'm going to get it done, right? Yes, ma'am, I'll get it done. But great managers love to hear the words, I know we plan to do X, but based on what I'm seeing, based on the priorities, I think Y would actually be better. Now let's talk about the third area of alignment, resources. When I mention resources here, I'm talking about time, headcount, tools, right? So, of course, you should be asking your manager for support, but there is also a right way and a wrong way to do this. And the wrong way that I've seen as a manager is when someone comes to their manager and says, I can't do that. I need more help from you. The right way involves framing resource requests strategically. And to do this, I use what I call the menu approach. It replaces yes or no asks with option-based decisions. So for example, you can tell your manager, I've taken some time to evaluate the resourcing here, and I've come up with these two options. If you want me to finish A by next week, I will need support from Y. If we don't have support from Y, I can still deliver this lesser option B by next week. When you bring out a menu instead of a stop sign, you reposition yourself as a strategic partner to your manager and not a complainer. And finally, let's talk about development. Many people treat career development like an annual event at the performance review, right? You wait for the review, you hear some generic feedback from your manager, wonder what exactly you need to do, why you're not advancing in your career. Once a year is not frequent enough, not enough feedback for you to be adapting and growing on the fly. High performers proactively align on their strengths, their areas of development, and all the stretch projects that they need throughout the year to grow. So, once a quarter, maybe even once a month, block off an extended one-to-one with your manager and use that time to align on your growth. Ask them for honest feedback. What's one strength that I should double down on, or one weakness that I need to address? And share skills that you want to develop to reach the next level. And plan and scope those projects that can help to demonstrate those skills, build those competencies, and stretch you in the right direction. Your manager is your best ally for career growth, but only if you bring them in. And believe me, most managers want their direct reports to succeed. In fact, for many managers, being able to develop talent is how they get evaluated as a manager too. When you proactively own your own development, you're not just helping yourself, you're making your manager look good too. So, end of the day, what I want to tell you is that you should stop looking to deliver work in your one-to-ones. Instead, start delivering trust, week by week, conversation by conversation. And that starts in your next one-to-one. All right, it is time for melon break. It's time to 吃瓜. And this week's melon break, Punch breaks the internet. So I'm talking about a baby macaque, a baby primate, monkey, if you will, named Punch, who is just absolutely blowing up the internet. Videos are surfacing of him everywhere, hugging a giant stuffed orangutan toy. This toy was given to him after his mother rejected him in the wild, and those videos have been viewed millions of times across platforms. Major media outlets have covered the story. Brands like IKEA have even sent him more plush toys. Even late night TV is talking about him. People are so interested in how this little monkey is doing. And at first, after being abandoned by his mother, probably because he was too small and too weak, Punch was taken in by a Japanese zoo, which tried to integrate him with their existing macaque society. Now, that integration did not go so well at first. Viewers, and of course by viewers I'm speaking for myself, viewers were heartbroken to see videos of Punch being dragged around, shunned, abused, bullied by other monkeys, and every time he would just retreat pitifully to his stuffed monkey, which is the closest resemblance of a mother, of safety that he could find. Now, in better news recently, it seems like Punch is finally being accepted by other monkeys. Things are looking up for him. And more recent videos are showing him being groomed by an adult, which is a clear sign of bonding and trust. By the way, that is the only time that I will ever be happy to see the words groomed by an adult. So why is the story of Punch even blowing up? Well, I think in this world of stress and bad news, maybe people see a bit of themselves in Punch. Maybe it reminds us of being small, of needing comfort and receiving comfort, of surviving something difficult. And which one of us is not going through difficult times? So I guess what I want to say is chin up Punch because it gets better. If you want to talk about Punch at work with your coworkers, one thing you could say is, have you been following the story of Punch the Monkey? I'm not going to lie, it low-key melted my heart. Or if you want to chat about it with your boss, you can say, it's so interesting how the story of Punch the Monkey has spread. Some stories are just universally resonant, and some brands are always quick to capitalize on stories, just like this one. Day Up is written, produced, and hosted with love by me, Jonathan Lee. If you want to support high-quality, free podcasting for Chinese professionals, please like and review this podcast. It would mean so much to hear from you. That's all for today. 下次再见，职场小伙伴们。